Hello everyone, welcome to TalentSprint. So in this session we are going to discuss the introduction to Indian Constitution. How much do you know about Constitution? Okay, so in this session we are going to introduce ourselves to the Indian Constitution. So before that, I want to discuss what is a Constitution. So what do you mean by a Constitution? Constitution is nothing but it is a set of principles according to which a state is governed. Why do we need to rule a state? Because in a society there exist different kinds of people. So as there are different kinds of people, if there are no rules in the society, people may fight each other. So that's why we need a set of principles according to which a state is governed. Or else people will fight each other and there will be less peace in the society. So Constitution is a rules book. In simple words, it is a rules book. So Constitution may be a single comprehensive document like Indian Constitution, or it may be uncodified like set of documents like UK Constitution. So it may be a single document like Indian Constitution, or it may be a set of documents like Britain or UK Constitution. Moving on to the primary functions of a constitution. So what are the primary functions of a constitution first? So what is the first function of a constitution? To set basic rules, or to form or to write basic rules so that peace exists in a society. Why do I need peace? Because everyone should live, all the living creatures should live with only peace. So this is the first and foremost function of a constitution. Moving on to the next function. It tells who rules the society or who rules the people. That means, in other words, I can say how a government is formed. What is the method of elections? Is it direct election or is it indirect election? This is the second feature of constitution. Moving on to the third feature. What is the third feature? It limits what government can impose on its citizens. So does government can rule on its own? No. So it also limits the government on its ruling. Because the very best example is fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are very basic to the people. So fundamental rights cannot be taken away. This is a limitation on the government. It cannot rule as it wants. There are set of principles the government should follow as per the constitution. Next is the last one, the last primary function, that is it must fulfill the aspirations of just society. So what do you mean by just society? I cannot achieve all the aspirations of all the persons in the society. At least I should fulfill some people in the society. Chinese people have set of different aspirations. Indian people have set of different aspirations. So their aspirations must be fulfilled by the constitution. So these are the four basic primary functions of any constitution in the world. Okay. So moving on to the next one, that is types of government. So what are the types of governments we generally see in the world? The first type of government is monarchy. So what do you mean by monarchy? Monarchy means it is ruled by a single person, that may be queen or king. He is the monarch. He set the rules for the society. He will implement the rules and he will give the justice to the people. Moving on to the next type of government, that is oligarchy. It is a rule by few people. What is the best example for monarchy? Britain. Britain is a constitutional monarchy. Saudi Arabia is a total monarchy. Next, the best example for oligarchy is North Korea. All those things. Russia, right? And next type of government is dictatorship. How a dictator is formed? He may be formed because of the rebellion conducted by the people. He may be a military ruler also. Sometimes military takes the government into its hands. So the dictator may be formed by the military ruler also. The best example is also North Korea. The last type of the government is democracy, the best form of government in the world. So what do you mean by democracy? Democracy means rule by the people, that is government by the people, of the people and for the people. So why the people should rule it? Because people are the ultimate. People's choice or people needs to be served. The rulers must accept the choices of the people. So all the people cannot rule. So people will choose their own representatives, then the representatives will rule the people. So this is the best form of democracy and best type of government in the world. So these are the 4 types of governments which we see generally in the world. Hope you are clear with this. Moving on to the next one, that is forms of government. So just now we have seen types of government. Now we will see the forms of government. So we have generally 2 types or 2 forms of government, that is parliamentary form of government and presidential form of government. So what do you mean by parliamentary form of government? So I have just listed out. What do you mean by parliamentary form? In parliamentary form, the head of the state is either monarch, a king or queen, or the president. And the head of the government is the prime minister in the parliamentary form. Okay. Next, in presidential form, the head of the state is president and head of the government is also president. Both functions are performed by the single person, that is president. And what is the major difference between both of them? It is the responsibility. The prime minister, who is the head of the government in parliamentary form, is responsible to the legislature. Does he answer questions in the legislature? Even a remote MP from a remote village can ask questions to the prime minister in the legislature, maybe Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. But this is not the case in presidential form. Yes, because he is not responsible to the legislature. He can do whatever he wants. Okay. So what is the best examples of parliamentary form? India and Britain. And the best example of presidential form is USA and Philippines. There is one more form called semi-presidential form. In that the head of the state is president and head of the government is prime minister. But the head of the state, that is president, may involve in day-to-day matters. The best example of semi-presidential is Sri Lanka. Okay, so these are the 3 forms generally we see. The mostly we see only 2 forms, that is parliamentary form and presidential form. Which is the best form of government? That is parliamentary form of government. Okay, moving on to the divisions of government. We have seen the types of government, forms of government. Now we will see the divisions of government. So generally any government in the world, it may be monarchy, it may be a constitutional monarchy, it may be democracy. It is divided into 3 divisions. What is that? The first one, legislature. Next is executive and third is judiciary. So what do you mean by legislature? The people elect their own representatives. They will sit in the legislature, that is parliament or state legislature. So what do they do? What is their work? Their work is to make laws. Why laws are needed? To govern the people, for the welfare of the people. So what does executive do? Executive will implement the laws. They will implement the laws made by the legislature. The executive are the civil servants, government officials, all these people. Then what does judiciary do? Judiciary will keep an eye on both executive and legislature, whether they are working fine or not. Okay. So if they don't work fine, so the judiciary can warn them and take action on them. So these are the 3 types of divisions of government. In a monarchy, the king or queen will perform all the 3 functions. But in a democracy, they are performed by different set of people. So these are the divisions of government. Next, moving on to the features of Indian Constitution. So what are the very best features of Indian Constitution? The first feature is, it is the lengthiest written constitution in the world. How did it become lengthiest? Because it has around 440 plus articles and 12 schedules. That's why it's the lengthiest written constitution in the world. Which is the shortest constitution? It is of the country Monaco. Okay, but the lengthiest written constitution is India. The next feature of Indian Constitution is parliamentary form of government. So we have already seen parliamentary form of government. The executive or the head of the government is directly responsible to the legislature. Okay. Next feature of Indian constitution is single citizenship. What do you mean by single citizenship? The single citizenship means we are citizens of the country itself. If you take US, there they people have double citizenship or dual citizenship. What do you mean by dual citizenship? They are citizens of the state and citizens of the country because they have their own constitution for each state. But in India, except Jammu and Kashmir, no state has separate constitution. We are finally Indians. Okay. In most of the countries, all will follow similar rules. Okay. So that is a single citizenship advantage. Next is rigidity and flexibility. So what do you mean by this? So flexibility means in some parts we can amend this constitution easily with simple majority. Number of members present by 2 plus 1. That is simple majority. Next is rigid. In some cases, the constitution requires special majority like 2/3 majority, 2/3 of the members present in the house. So that's why it is both rigid and flexible. Only totally rigid is US constitution. For every case you require 2/3 majority in US, but in India is some cases you require simple majority and in some cases you require 2/3 majority. That's why it is called both rigid and flexible. Next is fundamental rights. So what do you mean by fundamental rights? Fundamental rights are very basic to the person. So they cannot be taken away by the constitution or by the parliament. This is a very best feature of Indian constitution. Next is quasi-federal. What do you mean by quasi-federal? What is federal? Federal means division of states. US is totally federal because each state has separate constitutions. But in India we don't have like that except for Jammu and Kashmir. So though we are divided into states, finally our total boss is central government. So we are quasi-federal, we are not totally federal. And the last and very best features of Indian constitution is it is socialist, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic nation. Okay, what do you mean by sovereign? We are ruling independently. Are we ruling independently? Yes. From 15th August 1947, we are free from external bondage. So that is why we are sovereign country. Next is socialist country. So what do you mean by socialist? Socialist means the resource of the country should be owned by the people. It's against capitalism like US. Okay. We are socialist country. Next is secular. All religions are accepted. We don't have any particular religion. That's why we are secular country. Next is democratic. I've already told you democracy. Government by the people, of the people and for the people. Is China called democracy? No. Because the condition for democracy is there must be minimum 2 parties to contest. That means you are giving choice to the people to vote. Either one or other. If there is only one party contesting, that is not called democracy. China, only Communist Party of China contests there. Only one party exists there. So that's why China is not called democracy. UK is democracy, 2 parties. US is democracy, 2 parties. India is democracy. UK is the oldest democracy in the world and India is the largest democracy in the world. Because we are largest population after China, because China is not democracy, we are the largest democracy in the world. So for democracy, minimum 2 parties should contest and the elections must be free and fair without any rigging, malpractices, all those things. Okay. Next is Republican nation. So India is called Republic? Yes. UK is called Republic? No. US is called Republic? Yes. So what is the condition for Republic is the country must have an elected head or directly elected head or indirectly elected head. Here our head of the state is president. Is he indirectly elected or directly elected? Indirectly elected. So there must be elections, either direct elections or indirect elections. Direct elections means elected directly by the people. In US, the president is directly elected. So it is republic. UK, the head of the state is queen there. She is not directly elected. She is neither directly elected nor indirectly elected. So UK is not a republic. China is republic because there are elections. Leave about one party or two party. But there are elections. So we call it as People's Republic of China. We became republic on 26 January 1950. So these are the very best features of Indian Constitution. Then moving on to the sources of Indian Constitution. So we have inspired so many things from other constitutions in the world to make it a perfect document for the welfare of the people. Okay. So which is the first source of Indian Constitution? That is Government of India Act 1935. So because British have ruled from 1600 onwards, first by the East India Company, then directly by the British. So they have forced upon so many laws of the British on us. So the first important law is Government of India Act 1935. So from it what we have inspired? The federal scheme, I have already told you, divisions. Okay. The next is the office of the governor. We have governor for each states. Next is emergency provisions. Okay. So emergencies, there are three types of emergencies: national emergency, state emergency and financial emergency. These we have taken from Government of India Act 1935. Then moving on to the next one, that is UK Constitution. Okay. So what we have taken? Law making procedure, how to make laws. Next is parliamentary form of government. We have already seen. Next is rule of law. Everyone is before law. See, everyone is after law. No one is greater than law. So that we have taken from UK Constitution. Next is single citizenship. We have already seen. UK has a single citizenship. India has single citizenship. We are finally citizens of the country. Next is cabinet system. Cabinet means we have total ministers. Out of them, a small group forms cabinet. They include the important portfolios like external affairs, home minister, all those people. So these things we have taken from the UK Constitution. Next is US Constitution. So from US what we have taken? Preamble. We the people of USA, we the people of India. So both the preambles start with we the people. So because people are the final in democracy. Next we have taken fundamental rights, very needed by any person. Next we have taken independent judiciary. Judiciary must be independent. Politics should not interfere in judiciary or else the judgments will be influenced. Next, judicial review. That means I can review anything in this country by the judiciary. The judiciary must be always independent. Next is removal of Supreme Court and High Court judges. So this procedure we have taken from US Constitution. So these are the things which we have taken from US Constitution. Next is role of Vice President. So Vice President, what is the role of him? He acts as a chairman of Rajya Sabha. All these things we have taken from US Constitution. Okay. So moving on to the next constitution, that is Irish or Ireland Constitution. What we have taken? Directive principles of state policy. What is this directive principles of state policy? So these are the principles in which the state has to keep in mind while making the policy for the state. While making policies, the state should keep in mind these principles for the welfare of the people. So this we have taken from Ireland Constitution. Then method of presidential election. We have seen already. Our president is indirectly elected. There is a separate group formed. We will learn in the coming chapters how he will be elected clearly. So this we have taken from Ireland Constitution. Next, nominating of members to Rajya Sabha. How they are nominated. Okay. So this procedure also we have taken from Irish Constitution. So these three things we have taken from Irish Constitution. Next is Australian Constitution. So Australian Constitution we have taken concurrent list. So what do you mean by concurrent list? We have three lists: union list, state list and concurrent list. That is called federal scheme. Okay. So union list means the union government has exclusive power to make laws. State list means the state legislature has exclusive power to make laws. The concurrent list means both union and state governments have powers to make laws. So that concurrent list we have taken from Australian Constitution. If I don't mention any item in these three lists, that comes under residuary powers. Okay. Next is South African Constitution. So from South African Constitution we have taken amendment procedure. What do you mean by amendment? Amendment means if I add, delete or modify anything from the Constitution, it is called amendment. Even one letter also. Add, delete or edit or modify anything in the Constitution. We amend our Constitution under article number 368. So that procedure we have taken from South African Constitution. Next, election of members to the Rajya Sabha, how they are elected. Okay, that is indirect election. That process we have taken from South African Constitution. Next is Canadian Constitution. Federation with strong center. We have already seen we are quasi-federal. We are finally dependent upon the central government totally. So federation with strong center. Next is residuary powers with the parliament. I have already told you, if the three lists, if it is not mentioned, it comes under residuary powers. So remaining powers, residuary powers means. So that is mentioned in the Canadian Constitution. The final power with residuary powers is with the parliament. Next, Weimar Constitution of Germany. At that time, the Germany was Weimar Republic. So we have taken some things from Weimar Constitution of Germany. Emergency powers to be enjoyed by the union. So declaration of emergency and removal of emergency is exclusively done by the parliament. Okay, the state governments cannot interfere in that. Next is suspension of fundamental rights during emergency. Because fundamental rights will be suspended during emergency to maintain law and order in the country. So these are the things which we have inspired from different sources of Constitution. So this is all from today's session in the introduction of Constitution. We'll meet in our next section. Thank you.